πάροχος της Καστοριάς ράβουσε τα μαλλιά του σαν ήρθανε τα ταρχικά στην περιφέρεια του σαν ήρθανε τα
Judge Napolitano does that. I watched John Mearsheimer, who I really love. That guy's incredible. Do you know
It's
him?
good. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he's on Napolitano. I never thought in a million years I'd be interested in watching anything he has to say. He's a sort of a, I think he's a, I mean, I don't know what he is, but he is, when it comes to Palestine and when it comes to Ukraine, the guy is, I think, and Mearsheimer for sure is just right on the way. Anyway, he does that. 10, 9, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Every time I see it, I think, that's all. Sorry. Anyway.
That's funny. No, they turned out to be a lot better than, I don't know if they always were good and just got better, or I don't know what the deal is, but they certainly are right on now. I mean, I don't know about everything, but
no, but on this, right? But that's the thing I think of allies. I mean, I don't know if they're more than that, but man, Mearsheimer just goes on and on. Not just about Ukraine, which seems like really it's fucking scary, but I mean, I read his book. Susanna got me his book years ago on what's it called? It's on APAC. I forget what the title of the book is. But man, it's detailed. It is data driven. It is fact after fact after fact. There's no and 10 years. What is it? 15, 20 years later, no question about it. Anyway.
Yeah, he called it. I mean, he called all this stuff. It's
he's good. Walton Mearsheimer, they're pretty good. And the thing that's odd, I mean, I don't know if it's odd, the thing is he considers himself part of the school of the realist school of foreign affairs, if you will. And the same school that creature, Henry Kissinger, belonged to.
Right.
But just different in some ways, so incredibly different. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's because he doesn't have power. I don't know. But it's impressive. I find it impressive. Anyway.
Yeah. It's pragmatic. I mean, I guess with pragmatism, you can take it either way. That can be pragmatism for an evil cause or pragmatism for the cause of just not blowing up the world and, causing untold suffering.
And that's what he seems. To not. He doesn't seem to want to blow up the world. That's
right.
For sure.
Well, it's ultimately not in anybody's benefit aside from this tiny minority of arms dealers, basically.
Well, and it's not in their interest either. I think they're too fucking stupid to know about it.
Well, yes.
They think they'll be protected, or they think they can control this stuff. I mean, they're out of their fucking minds.
Of course not. Yeah. Okay, so shall we start the show?
Let's start the show.
All right. Welcome back to Comrades. I'm here with my uncle, and we are here. We wanted to do a little roundup of kind of disease news. I had, some questions myself. I was kind of curious. What's up? What's the story? Talking about RSV, Monkeypox, and kind of the state of COVID at the moment, just so that we can kind of get a handle on what we're looking at and, how worried we should be and if we should be worried, then what kind of precautions we should be taking. So let's start with monkeypox. That's kind of been in the news a fair amount. There's a new what did you call it? A clade?
They're clade.
Not even new.
They call them clades. It's what the virologists call them. So it's considered, it's a strain of, there's clade 1 and clade 2. Clade 2 is the less severe, much lower mortality rate of something like 0.1%. It's seen in, primarily this is being seen in Africa, although there's some cases elsewhere. Not an African disease, just seen in Africa. It will spread. Clade 1 is the more severe disease, and it's a little unclear what the mortality of it is. Frankly, it ranges from something like 0.1% to 10%, which is an impossible number. The numbers that I'd seen were something like 0.2, 0.3% mortality, but it is more severe for sure. And the thing about Mpox, it's called Mpox now, not monkeypox. I think there was some concern about. I don't know what the concern was. Was it? Was it? I don't know what the concern was, but it's now called Mpox instead of monkeypox.
Okay.
It is a orthopox virus similar to smallpox virus, not the same, similar to same class, DNA virus. DNA virus means it is less likely to undergo significant variation in the genome when it divides, which makes it a little bit easier to handle in terms of drugs and vaccine and so forth. It's initially transmitted was primarily by touch and sexual contact. Men who have sex with men, of course, it can also be transmitted by heterosexual sex, but the lesions themselves are infectious. So it's primarily touch. It's crazy, of course, to say, it's just touch. That's it. Don't worry about droplets. Don't worry about aerosol, because it is a orthopox virus like smallpox virus, and there is droplet and aerosol transmission with that. So I think you have to be concerned about that as well. It's just not the primary mode of transmission. What usually happens if you're a normal, healthy person, you'll have a flu-like illness for a couple of weeks, and you'll develop these lesions on your hands and arms and legs and chest and face and genitalia potentially, and they're unsightly, probably itch, but it'll get better after a couple of weeks. They go away. It's again, the mortality tends to be relatively low. If you're immune compromised or quite old or have multiple comorbidities, it's a slightly different issue. And those folks, the severity obviously can be much worse. I think from what I've read, and I have to tell you, I've not seen a single case of this, so I've only read about it, so bear with me on that. From what I've read, at least, most infectious disease colleagues would say, if you're a reasonably healthy person, and you get this, you isolate, you're in bed, you're flu-like, symptomatic treatment, which would take up for the flu. If you're one of those folks who are quite unwell, immune compromised, elderly, multiple comorbidities, there are drugs to be used. They're really anti-smallpox. Remember, this virus is related to the smallpox virus in the same family, so it probably would work. But physicians aren't giving it out willy-nilly for a couple of reasons. It probably would work, but and also you don't want to develop resistance to the drug. Right? There's not that many drugs for smallpox, and smallpox is lethal. This is not quite as bad. So, generally speaking, it would be symptomatic here, and of course there is an immunization. I mean, this is to start talking about getting immunized. People go absolutely crazy about it because there's this anti-vax movement around the world, not just in the United States these days.
Right.
It, to my mind, is absolutely crazy. It's not the place. This might be the place to get into it, but I don't even want to get into it because you can't. There's no convincing.
Can of worms.
There are vaccines. The vaccines do work. The vaccines do have side effects. There's always side effects. All you have to do is look at what happens when you don't vaccinate against polio in an area that's got endemic polio, and see what happens to the little kids, right? And we see that, don't we? In Gaza today.
Right.
So the vaccines work. There are side effects. They're uncommon. This is not about. You can argue big pharma getting rich. That's also a different issue. One that, as you well know, I have spent 50 years fighting for a national health system, but that's not the point right now. The point right now is there is a 2-shot immunization from monkeypox. That if you're at risk going to be in an area where there's monkeypox being transmitted, men who have sex with men, heterosexual, with a non-monogamous partner, stuff like that, I would say you get immunized. It's safe. The immunization, the immunization is essentially effective 10 days, 2 weeks after the second shot. So I think it is really worth it's worth, again, for sure. It's worth
Mhm.
doing. So it's of concern. It's unsightly. It looks like smallpox, and that might scare people out. It, and it's bad. I mean, you don't want it,
Right.
but it's not horrific,
Right.
right? You can deal with it. Again, the folks who are at the most risk though would be immune compromised and people who have, whether they're young or old, who have multiple
Mhm.
comorbid diseases. Those guys
Right.
would be increased, and so they should for sure get immunized, and they'd be the ones who would get the antiviral agents if they were to get sick, for sure.
Right. Right. And this new one, the not new, whatever, the clade one is potentially more dangerous.
Yes,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Clade two
That's
is clearly less severe, has lower mortality, at least from the data that exists now.
right.
Clade 1 is what's primarily being seen in the Central African Republic, Democratic Republic of Congo,
Right.
Republic of Congo, uh,
Right.
Gambia, I think, as well. I mean, and that's the concern point for sure. Now,
Okay.
how would you know? I mean, if you develop these lesions, you don't know, and
Right.
right, there's studies that have to be done. But again, if you're in an area where there's transmission, I think the thing to do
Get
or if
vaccinated.
you think you're at high risk, is just get immunized. Just get
Yeah.
immunized.
And since we are prescriptive and we are a leftist podcast, what would be the proper world response right now? Would it be to distribute vaccines in the areas that have high levels of the disease moving around, or what could be the
Un,
solution?
Unequivocally.
Mm.
You know, the response would be sort of like the response of Peter Hotez at Texas Children's Hospital in Houston,
Mhm.
where his lab developed, it wasn't Mpox, but it was a COVID vaccine that
Mhm.
works, it's free, it's unpatented, it is
Awesome.
pennies. And Peter has, although he's taken serious flack from anti-vaxxers. I mean, it's serious. I mean, it's on Twitter. God only knows how serious any of the things on Twitter is. But he has done incredibly good work. He is a remarkable man. And he and his colleagues in his lab have just done excellent work. So the
Wow, that's
response
awesome.
would be one, to develop inexpensive vaccine, and two, well, spread them worldwide. Absolutely, and it should be via the World Health Organization, and these are free. Because
Yeah.
if this thing gets out of control, I don't think it's going to, but if it were to get out of control, it doesn't respect viruses. Don't respect boundaries. They don't respect borders, and they don't respect class. They don't care how much money you have. They just make you sick.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that would be the response.
Right. Okay. All right. Excellent. Now let's hit RSV. Where are we at with RSV right now? I've kind of heard some stuff in the news. People talking about RSV once again, kind of spreading. What's the kind of current state of things?
I mean, the last time I've looked at it, I mean, it is around for years and years and years. It was only picked up in kids because we didn't really care about adults. It just irrelevant. And frankly, unless you're elderly, like 74, 75, something like that. I guess that's elderly these days.
Hmm.
It's a little scary. Right. But or immune compromised. It's just not that big a deal. I mean, it can make you sick. Yes, it's a respiratory virus. There is immunization if you're immune compromised beyond, I believe it's 74, 75. Recommendations are to get immunized. There are there have been agents to use antivirals that we used to use in kids. The last time I looked, there wasn't much for adults. It's mostly symptomatic treatment. But the key is to get immunized against this thing. It's out there. I don't think it's running rampant, but it's certainly out there. The thing about RSV, like COVID, like Mpox, to think about. I mean, one of the things to think about is, of course, the how severely ill you become, the morbidity, the mortality. Pretty low with
Hmm.
RSV, and what's called the R naught, R0, which is the number of cases that will become number of people who become infected from an individual case. So, like with smallpox, monkeypox, COVID, it's about 6, 8, or something. With RSV, it's 3, 4, 2, It's not horribly transmissible. It's transmissible, not horribly transmissible. The more, you get sick, the mortality's low. And again, get immunized.
Oh,
Just get
there's a
immunized. I
vaccine.
mean, yeah. There's a vaccine. Yeah, and it's probably more expensive than it ought to be. Right? That's a big pharma discussion. It shouldn't be like that, but it is.
Sure. Yeah.
Certainly, older folks who have Medicare can get it. It's not going to cost them an arm or a leg. I don't think it will cost anything, as I remember, $20. But if you're young and you don't have, and you're unwell or immune compromised, it's a problem if you don't have insurance in the United States, right? But again, that topic, national health system, Medicare for all, that's an important topic. It's one that you and I have talked about. It's one that I've done battle over for 50 years, lost every single time, continue to lose, but eventually we will have
we'll win.
Right. But I don't know when. But the point is that notwithstanding that, the immunization is the thing to do if you can do it.
Yeah. Okay. What about I forgot to cover this with Mpox. What about protecting ourselves from it outside of immunization? Is it like for RSV? Is it the same as COVID? It's mostly transmitted through air. So whatever.
Well, it's not mostly transmitted through air. Mpox. It is transmitted through air, right? Aerosol and droplets, just like smallpox, but it's touch primarily.
For Mpox, for RSV?
It's through air. Sorry, I thought you asked about Mpox. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
RSV, yeah, it's droplet and aerosolized, sure.
Okay.
But again, I mean, in the old days, I don't even know when the old days were. I mean, 5 years ago, I don't know. You sort of thought of things as aerosolized droplet contact, 1, 2, 3, ones and zeros. But there's sort of a big gray zone in all this stuff. So Mpox, is primarily touch, mucosal membrane, sexual contact, for example. But it can also be transmitted through droplet and aerosol. So I think the thing is if you're in an area where there's disease, there's disease, you be careful that you don't touch lesions, of course. Right. And I think you wear a mask. I mean, I know people don't like wearing masks. I mean, I don't like wearing masks, but you just do it because that's just what you do. That's what you have to do. And then all the stuff about the craziness about it doesn't work. It makes you breathe your CO2. I mean, utter bullshit. I mean,
total nonsense.
Utter
masks
nonsense.
are safe and effective.
It's safe and effective. I mean, with COVID, it made the best data that I saw was meta-analysis from the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences of the United States, PNAS. It dropped the risk of infection by 20%. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, that's significant. And I got to tell you, I mean, at least personally, I mean, I went through COVID, whatever it was, 2020 through 2023. Just absolutely stone cold. Always wore a mask, no problem. It was a drag. And then I got a little sloppy in 2023 and got infected. And man, it was 7 weeks till I was better. I'm not sloppy anymore about that. When I'm in the hospital, I wear a mask full stop. I must admit, when I go to a restaurant, do I do it? Well, I mean, probably should, but don't. So there are, and everyone's got to judge that for themselves. But in any event, in general, with these disorders, when the rates are going up, for example, COVID is going up now. I think you want to be masked.
Yeah, I mean, for my part, it's I'll still go out and eat, and I'll I'll wear my mask through high traffic areas. If I go to a big store, I'll wear a mask. I don't really care. And I'll even when I go to a restaurant, like wear it to the table and take it off to eat. And, okay, it's about harm reduction, or not harm reduction. Sorry, reduction of mitigation.
Mitigation. That's right. Absolutely right. Absolutely
right.
Not perfect. It is not perfect. But it does work. And the guys who don't want to do it and want to make a political point out of it, be my guest. It's like irrelevant. But it really does. Masks really do work. So I think
that leads us.
Yes.
Sorry. Go ahead. No, finish.
No. For RSV for sure. If you're around the area, for COVID for sure, but also Mpox as well. I think if you're in an area where there are cases, I think you wear a mask. For Mpox, the biggest risk is touch, mucosal membrane.
Should we be speaking of touch for Mpox, should we be like, I don't know, if we're using toilets in public restrooms, should we be like, I don't know, using an alcohol wipe on the toilet? Is it that transmissible or?
That's a very good question that I don't know the answer to. I don't know the answer to that question.
So maybe something to consider. Wouldn't hurt.
Maybe, yeah. What's the viability of the virus on a non-porous material? I know that data must exist. I don't know it. I should have checked on that before we started, but I just.
No, it's okay. We'll look it up. I should have asked. We'll look it up and we'll add it in the notes.
Okay, good.
Greetings from the future, comrades. It is I, future Odysseas. Bleep bloop. Robots don't control anything yet. No, actually, everything just is pretty much the same, but worse. So, I am breaking in here to add the what my uncle updated me with, and that is the surface stability of Mpox. A viable virus was detected on glass and stainless steel for up to 5 days, plastic surfaces for 3 days. In contrast, no viable Mpox was detected on wooden board and cardboard, which are porous and water-absorbent surfaces, after 1 and 2 days of incubation, respectively. In addition, Mpox nucleic acids were more stable and showed better correlation with viral titers on stainless steel, plastic, and glass. The results indicate that fomite transition of Mpox is plausible. Moreover, the stability of Mpox was highly surface dependent and more stable on smooth surfaces, which could provide more information for minimizing the transmission of Mpox and emphasize the significance of environmental disinfection in Mpox prevention and control. So, the upshot of that is basically, might not be a bad idea to carry some alcohol wipes with you and, wipe off public restroom toilets. Can't hurt. They tend to be pretty gross anyway, so I would say do it. I do it. I don't know, whatever. But like I said, they're pretty gross anyway, so all right, that is it. Take care. Future Odysseus out.
Awesome. Okay, so on to COVID.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, COVID is just COVID. I mean, the wild type virus back in whatever it was, 19 or 20, was really quite severe, fairly high lethality. And all the versions that have come into existence through mutation they're infectious, they make you sick, but they're not quite as lethal. The one what's going around now, and you see the bump in, and we'll put this on the website, right? The bump in wastewater viral particles, viral level, increase in tests, increase in hospitalization, increase in ED visits for COVID. People are sick, but it doesn't seem to be as severe. The lethality is not as high for sure. The R0, R0, the infectivity is about the same, around 6, I think it is, for COVID. So, it is transmissible pretty easily.
Yeah.
And, what's to be done? I mean, again, what's to be done is what's to be done in the past, right? Which is, mask up. And when the disease is being seen in your area in significant numbers, and that's in the United States in general right now. We'll put the CDC wastewater and case numbers up, and they can be broken down by region, so you can get some idea what it's like in the region to live if you don't live in Florida or Wisconsin. So mask up, vaccine. I mean, again, vaccines they work. They're not perfect, but they clearly work. Even if you're vaccinated, you can still get sick. Even if you're vaccinated, you can still get really sick. It's just way less likely. And then there's the antivirals. And the antivirals tend to work. Paxlovid is the oral agent. It's a dual antiviral agent. It really does decrease severity of disease. There's some question. The drug is administered for a 5-day course. There's some question if that's actually long enough. Should it be actually a 10-day course?
Hmm.
And that, I'm not sure that that's been fully evaluated yet. There was a sense, I'm based on numbers, there was a recrudescence of the disease after you finished your course of Paxlovid that would come back. That may be related to um, inadequate duration of treatment. So 10 days may be more appropriate. That's not what's accepted. I don't think that's what the Infectious Disease Society says right now or anything like that. But that it's at least worth considering it if you take the drug. It will decrease the risk of severe disease for sure. And if you're a high risk person, right? So really young, really old, immune compromised, multiple comorbidities, you want to be immunized, and if you do still get sick, you want to take the Paxlovid. I don't think there's any doubt about that at all.
Asthma. If you have asthma like
Yeah,
me.
that's one of the comorbidities. Asthma, if you're a smoker, if you have COPD, if you have diabetes. I mean, you know, hypertension, obesity. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's not to be toyed with. That's for sure.
Right.
And the vaccine and masking are good preventive measures. Usually, if you get it, again, as you know, usually if you get it, you've got a kind of a several days of feeling kind of flu-like symptoms, and then it goes away and you're good. But for some small group of people,
Yeah.
and it's not entirely clear who those people will be. It's not all. It's not. It's frequently the people who have significant underlying disease, but not always. They get long COVID, and the
Yes.
only data that I've seen on long COVID and the rationale has to do. There was a post-mortem series of folks with long COVID and but basically autopsies, and they found virus, live virus everywhere, every organ in the body, everywhere. And so
Yeah.
it may well be that just in the folks who develop long COVID, we are just unable to clear the virus for reasons that are not entirely clear. There's some studies ongoing to see if utilization of longer term Paxlovid would minimize long COVID or treat long COVID. I don't know the results of those yet. But I think it's ongoing.
Huh. Oh, I have a tip, by the way. So as I think I've mentioned before, I have asthma. If when I get COVID, it's super bad. I have to take Paxlovid for sure. I'm also one of the people that gets something called Paxlovid mouth. It's not a big deal. You shouldn't be too scared of it. It is unpleasant. Basically, you get this taste in your mouth, and it is really hard to get rid of. And it's annoying. It should not keep you from taking Paxlovid. If you need it, you need it. Take it. It's worth it. There is Lagevrio as well, but they kind of limit who they give Lagevrio to, at least where I am. However, my hot tip is if you get Paxlovid mouth, buy yourself some Sour Patch Kids gum. It is there's nothing else that works. It is the weirdest thing. I mean, Sour Patch Kids gum is not the great. I mean, it is really weird and kind of strange.
I have no idea what this stuff is. This sounds like something that is beyond my generation. That's for sure.
So Sour Patch Kids are like a candy. They're candy. This is like very much my childhood growing up. Sour Patch Kids. They're like a sour and sweet candy. And for whatever reason, I don't know if I mean, you wouldn't want to be eating just endless amounts of candy, but like gum is something you can just kind of chew as your day progresses. Unlike cough drops, which don't really work, but like for some reason, the weird, whatever they put in it is like it just knocks it right out. It's like nothing else I've ever encountered. So I keep some on deck.
That's neat. That's neat. That's good.
So that's my tip. Yeah. Okay. So oh, and we should mention boosters. Should we still be getting the boosters? I know the answer, but
yeah, we should still be getting the boosters.
Yeah.
No question about it. No question about it. So we should, when they're out, get them. What if you've been sick? When do you get immunized? I mean, you wait 2 weeks or 4 weeks, and you wait 2 to 4 weeks. Some people say 6. I'd say sooner is better than later. You have both the natural immunity and the immunity induced by the vaccine. You would I would say you just get it. But for sure, boosters, when they come out, you get them. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're probably, I don't know, they last 6 months, something like that. You know,
hmm And if you get sick, how long should you stay away from other people? Because I know a lot of people don't get that sick from COVID, but they don't want to spread it around to, to at-risk folks. And so, I've had this question come to me from my own friends and and whatnot. How long should I be staying home? I get COVID, I feel better. How should I test? And then once I test clean, I can go out amongst people and whatever unmasked.
well, the CDC's data, like, initially it was, if you get sick, you stay away till you're negative. It might be 14 days, might be 10 days. Then they dropped it to 5. Are you feeling better? Because usually you've cleared the virus. I, I, I think that's, I think that's just too risky. So I would say a couple of things. One, while you're sick and feel miserable, you just stay home. Full stop. Now you're feeling better, test. If you feel really normal, but you're still testing positive, that can happen. Then you've got to make a decision. If you need to go back to work, then I think you go back to work and you wear a mask. Full stop.
Mm-hmm.
Full stop.
Yeah.
Always. You don't remove it. You're not around people with a mask on. If you're negative, then it's all good. You just go back to work. But I would say many people don't have sick days, and they can't stay away from work. If you can't stay away from work, without losing your job, what are you going to do? So
Right.
I think the feds are once again going to release no cost tests that they'll mail to your house. So that's going to happen again. And so I think you test while you're testing positive. You stay home if you can stay home. If you can't, you have to wear a mask. Like I would say an N95 mask if you have to go back to it. And you just do it. Somebody doesn't like it, they don't, why are you wearing a mask? I don't like masks. Masks make you woke or something. I don't know what people say, but you say too bad, too sad. You just do it because you do put other people at risk. That's the key.
And
Putting others at risk.
and fuck them. Like, who cares? I mean, but you need to channel your inner punk rock and just yeah, do the right thing. And fuck anybody who tells you otherwise. Don't let social pressure, the pressure to conform, dictate what you do. Especially when it comes to protecting people that are at risk. It's just it's smacking stuff. It's just the right thing to do. Okay, excellent. All right, so that's my big questions. I think it's worth mentioning. We return to this a lot, and our next episode will probably be about this. But this stuff is spreading and causing a lot of suffering in Gaza because of the ongoing genocide. And so as part of our kind of sort of recommendation for global response, peace is important, and to refuse people health care, to destroy all of their hospitals, and to let disease run rampant in their population is not only cruel and evil and bad, it's ultimately self-defeating, because again, viruses do not respect borders. Now we're seeing polio outbreaks, we're seeing Mpox, we're seeing, of course, COVID. What do you do if you get COVID in Gaza? So permanent ceasefire now, and the occupation. That's my
I'm with you. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, a single democratic secular state with equal rights for everybody. Christian, Jew, Muslim, doesn't matter, atheist, us, me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? That's. But again, we can talk about. There's a lot to talk about.
We'll talk about that later.
On the Palestine issue, we can talk about that another time.
Hell yeah. Uncle Joe, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you. I love you, man.
Okay, man. Love you. I look forward to our next talk. Okay, soon.
Sounds fabulous. All right. Okay. See you next time.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Stamattina mi sono alzato, oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Stamattina mi sono alzato e ho trovato l'invaso. Oh partigiano, portami via. Oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Partigiano, portami via.